right? It's kind of weird because it's an underground base that's basically pretty much inside. It's a huge, massive, just almost a geode,
Right,
just full of vegetation and probably its own weather patterns and shit like that. You know what I mean? And then you see this giant pyramid off to the side, and that's Nerve headquarters. And at that point, she kind of, before that, she says, "Do you have all your ID badges and everything?" And you notice whenever he hands it to her, it's all ripped up. So and I didn't notice this until, about the fifth or sixth time that I watched it, that it was all ripped up. And it's like, why would that thing be ripped up? But it's almost all blacked out, and it's just got his name and his ID card and shit like that on it. So to me, and this will be something that'll happen a little bit later on too, he's already got issues with his father. And she even alludes to it too. She's like, well, you're not very comfortable around your father. Well, that makes two of us, So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, you're introducing this character. He hasn't seen his father in such a long time because they do talk about it. It's like 3-something years or something like that. So he's a little kid whenever he got dropped off. And then because they show that back where the little kid's crying, and you're just like, whoa, what the hell is going on? Until they get to that base, and like I said, she even says something about this is no place for a woman that wears a skirt, because they're riding these giant escalators everywhere. And then that's where they introduce the other character, Dr. Ritsuko Akagi. Ritsuko, she's your science person right there. She's the chief scientist, and she's in command of the technical branch of Nerve, right? So they do the research and development of all of the Evangelions, maintenance and repair. She's she's connected to this from the beginning as well. She's a daughter of another famous Gehern scientist, and I'm going to say that wrong. It's Gehern or Gehern. It's another organization that used to be Nerve that actually turned into
morphed into Nerve.
Yeah.
So was that before the second impact? Or
kind
was
of
that
right afterwards.
Right afterwards.
Right
okay.
afterwards, yeah. Her and Masato have been really big friends all the way since college, and you'll see a lot of that throughout the series too. They'll kind of get more into the
spoiler alert.
The background for it. She's somewhere in a dive suit, in a swimsuit when they introduce her, because she's like, oh my gosh, she's lost. I can't believe she's lost in this big giant place.
Right.
Who wouldn't be lost, right? So she opens the elevator, and that's another one of those classic anime moments when they see each other, and it's like, oh, hey, you know. I mean, it's kind of weird. And they actually they're going up this weird conveyor at one point. And this is where you first get to see something really big down there too. And that's where the hand itself from something looks like it's reaching out towards them while they're on that conveyor.
Right.
And I've always thought that it's like the Evangelion's hand. It's the right hand of that Ava. Once you see it, is reaching out towards Shinji.
I think
in
so
a way
as well.
too. Yeah, it's like it's reaching, but it's not moving.
Right.
But it's just still there, because the next scene that they show right after that, the left arm is straight up and down.
Right.
So you got that right arm just kind of reaching for something. They go into this big room, everything's blacked out. They turn on the lights, and it's bam. There's a big giant face in front of him. Right. And he's like, what in the hell is this? And he's looking through the manual. She's like, you won't find any of that in there.
Right.
Ritsuko looks at him and is like, yeah, that's not in there. He's like, what is that? And then she kind of introduces the Evangelion. Now I got to break down what the Evangelion actually is.
And I know you're going to get deeper into this, but I mean, it's like, at first I'm like, is this just a giant robot?
Yeah,
when I first saw it.
Yeah, you might think it is. Basically, what an Evangelion is, it's the ultimate all-purpose humanoid decisive battle weapon. So that's one heck of a breakdown for it. You know what I mean? It's a term derived from Eve, of course. Evangelions are basically mistaken for giant robots, but they are really not robots, but they're cyborgs. They're living creatures. They have all these mechanical components incorporated onto their bodies. They are covered from head to toe in metallic plate armor that hide their true organic form, so you don't really see it. So yeah, that's why you think that they would be giant mechs, right? Right. They have pilots who sit into this cockpit, which you see a little bit of the cockpit part of it. whenever they call it an entry plug, whenever they have this artificial port that kind of goes into the neck of the actual
right.
Ava, and the pilot's sitting there, and there's basically it's like they have this LCL fluid that goes in it, and it basically helps you breathe. It's kind of like what is that movie? James Cameron's when they're the deep sea with
the abyss.
Yes,
yeah.
Remember how they have that kind of a deal? So it feeds oxygen directly into them.
Right.
So without getting a little bit more into the Ava for right there, the Ava's sitting right there, and he's like, "Is this why my father brought me here?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And then all of a sudden you hear his voice, and it's Gendo, and he's like, "Yeah. That's it. That's why I brought you here. There's only certain people that can do this." And immediately he's like, "Fuck you, Dad. I'm not doing this shit." So he does get kind of pissed off at first. And of course, as a little kid, hasn't seen his father in 3 years. And he's like, "Fuck you. I'm not doing this shit." You know? And that's when, cause they are alluding, "Oh, we got another pilot. We got a backup. Right. We got somebody to take this angel on." Cause they're like, "Well, we don't have Rey." Which you don't really know who Rey Ayanami is. Right. But you did get to see her a little bit at the very, 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 very beginning of the show. She's like there for a second, then she disappears. Even Shinji's just like, "What the hell was that?" You know what I mean? So you don't really get to see a lot of her. Right. But then that's whenever they're like, "All right, you know what? Are you going to do it?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to pilot it. I've never even seen this thing before. So I'm going to, you want me to jump into this thing and I haven't seen you for so long? Screw you, Dad."
And go fight this giant, thing that wiped us out a couple times.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't even know what that is, too, because they've been running and nobody knows what that is.
Well, he knows there's something out there, and they know they want him to fight something.
Yeah, he's like, "You want me to fight this thing?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know what this is, And then that's when Ritsuko's like, "You're going to have to pilot that." And then Masato is like, "Wait a minute, he just got here. He doesn't know what any of this is." And she goes, "You should know better than anybody." She goes, "Okay." It's like, "Yeah, you have to get in. You have to pilot it." So he's got all of these influences basically saying, "You're going to have to do this," right? That's when they basically say, at this point, they're like, "Well, he's not going to do it. Configure the Ava Unit 1, which that's what they call this one, the purple Ava Unit 1. Configure it for Rey," And they're like, "Well, you don't even know who Rey is," and they bring her in on a fucking stretcher.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then that develops a little bit more into the future, because you get to see kind of what happened before they even got there with all their tests and everything. And she comes out on a stretcher, and he's like, "What are you bringing this in for?" And then that's whenever the angel actually does have almost like a direct hit on the headquarters.
Right.
And when Gendo's like, "They know we're here." He actually knows where we're at. They're coming after us. So you don't know if they're actually coming after the Evangelion, or if they're coming after the headquarters, or whatever they're coming after, but they're coming after that specific spot.
Right.
But then that right hand comes up from the Ava and protects Shinji.
Right.
Which is weird, because everybody's sitting around thinking, "Oh my God, what? This thing's not even online yet. How did it move? What's going on with this?" And then that's when Masato's like, "It's actually protecting him." It's weird. Then he runs over to Rey, so he's compassionate. He's a kid. He's going, "What's going on? Why are you bringing this person in here?" He goes to pick her up, and she's bleeding. So she's all fucked up for some reason.
Right.
And, that's basically whenever he looks at it, and he's like, "Don't run away. I shouldn't run away. I shouldn't. I'm going to do this." And he says, "I'm going to pilot this thing." So that's whenever you get introduced into the entry plug. So he's kind of in there, and they're like, "It took Rey so many weeks to synchronize with her Ava. How is he going to do this on one time?" He gets in there, and all of a sudden everything's firing green. And they're like, "Oh my God, we've never seen anything like this." So it's basically like his senses or something like that are coming to life in this thing.
Right.
And it's actually, he was meant to pilot this thing right here. 100%. This was him.
Almost like it was like coded in his DNA.
Correct.
Or something.
Yeah, it was actually there. It was something that
he's high in midichlorians.
Yeah, something like that, right? Then that's whenever basically Masato's up on the battle deck, I guess, whatnot. And she's like, "Do I got the go?" And he's like, "Yes." And then that's when you see Professor Fuyutsuki basically says, "Are you sure about this?" And that's when Gendo kind of smiles a little bit. So you know that he knows what's going on.
Yeah.
You know,
he
got
knows
a plan.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like there's a plan formulating for all of this stuff, that it was all in line with what they wanted to actually have done. And this is your introduction to the whole series, because as soon as it gets done with that, it pushes that Ava up in like the skyrocket kind of a weird, just like straight all the way up to the very top. Ava lands at the very top, and then all of a sudden they cut back to Masato, and she says, "Shinji, I hope you don't die." And then that's it. That's the end of episode 1.
Absolutely. And I'll say the Gendo cat. So my first impression, douchebag. However, like, there's always that side of me, because I'm kind of that person as a writer too, that I also think that he has a plan for a reason.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a good reason.
He looks calculated.
Very calculated. Definitely seems like a dick to his kid. But again, I think there's a reason behind all that. That's just my inference.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you can tell that he's
or
like
inference, depending on who you are.
Yeah. He's king shit of fuck mountain around there, you know.
For sure.
Everybody looks at him, and he's basically like, he knows what's going to happen, you know. So you don't. It ends on that note, and then it stops, of course. So, and then episode 2, and we'll get into that on the next episode, of course.
Absolutely.
Overall impressions of the show for you, first time viewing it.
There were definitely some of the cliche anime moments, just small. Overall, the story seems really cool so far. I like that they're building. It's almost like they throw you in and they're building, kind of like what we've talked about with a lot of like the movies that we've reviewed, things like that, like Buckaroo Banzai style, you know, where you're just in it.
Yeah, you're there.
And you're going to pick it up as it happens, which is the best thing to me. I hate when they have to preface a bunch of stuff at the beginning and you're like,
yeah,
okay, all right. Now that I have read these 4 paragraphs, I can start watching, you know what I mean? Which is sometimes needed. I get that for, you know, like a really in-depth story.
I.e. Dune, the movie.
As you know, I've not seen Dune. And I'm gonna wait until the new Dune comes out.
Yeah, there's a lot of world building in this, and you get to see the main parts of it, and you get to meet most of the main characters in this first episode.
And I can tell that there is going to be a lot of world building going on, and I like that portion of it. It looks like it's going to be pretty deep.
Yeah, you get into the history, and they allude to a little bit of the history of each one of the characters at some point. You know, not much on like Dr. Akagi, Ritsuko. Masato's friend. They don't really allude to that too much, but Masato, they kind of throw in that little quip about you should know more than anybody what needs to be done.
Right.
That he has to do this, you know. And Gendo, you know that he is like, this is it. This is my time to shine. This is what we've been preparing for these past 15 years.
Right.
We've been working on this part of it, you know. So, you know, the first time I saw this, it was like, okay, well, this kind of draws me in a little bit, you know.
For sure.
I just wanted to see that major fight. That's what you're building up to. Is you're building up to the fight that's happening. Which, you know, of course, the way they end it is perfect because it does hook you. I think so. So you have all these questions. It's like, what the fuck is an angel? What is nerve? What is, you know, why is this big major military force there? Why are they underground? What are they protecting, if they're protecting anything?
Right.
What are they doing here? Why is this thing going after them specifically?
Right.
And the angel looks badass.
Yeah,
it
does.
Think,
I thought so as well.
To be such a very, very big, lumbering, long-armed, kind of weird. It looks like it looks like a puppet face almost, you know? Like like a marionette face almost.
It kind of reminded me of like a Silent Hill kind of a thing, if you remember that.
Yeah, very blank with a long beak, you know?
Yeah.
You can, when you're looking at the style of the anime too, it's not a generic anime style, but it is kind of right in the wheelhouse of anime.
Yeah,
100%.
for sure. As far as like art and design goes, it's definitely wheelhouse anime, but it's its own thing, and that's awesome. And I do like the design of the angel, and the Ava or whatever they call it. That when you see it, I'm like, it's cool looking.
Yeah. The Ava itself, whenever they show the sheer size of it,
exactly.
I mean, it's just huge, and it doesn't necessarily vary in size because it's just one size. This just giant mech looking, type of a machine. You don't know what its capabilities are at this point. You haven't really seen anything, but it looks humanoid. Yeah. It really looks like just a giant human.
And that's one of the things too is I've never been into the giant robot stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
I had some friends that were